Is it possible that we as Dallas Cowboys fans sometimes get a little bit too attached to the next new shiny toy? I think the Dallas Cowboys, quiet as it kept, may have a secret weapon already available to them on the roster. I'm going to make this very clear at the onset of this show. I still want the Cowboys to draft a receiver in the first 2 rounds. I already know half of y'all was, oh, ain't no way, we need to get a receiver. No, I still think we need to get a receiver in the first 2 rounds. But the Cowboys may be a lot better off in that wide receiver room than we all may be giving them credit for because, quite frankly, there's a guy that was traded here last year, and I know everyone's ready to dogpile, but just take a look. Actually, look at this guy. Look at the disservice that he was done by one Cooper Rush last season when he was traded to the Cowboys and had opportunity to showcase himself somewhere outside of the gulag in North Carolina. Let's get right into this, as I think that Jonathan Mingo, quiet as it's kept, is going to silently be a very good pickup for the Dallas Cowboys this upcoming season. And I may argue right now, Jonathan Mingo is probably the Cowboys' second best receiver on the roster, especially with Brandon Cooks leaving and Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, and Ryan Flanoy being the remaining guys there. Jonathan Mingo actually has the most pedigree out of all of those guys. He went to the biggest school and got drafted at the highest position. Let's get right into it, as I'm trying to just bring you guys around to the idea of embracing Jonathan Mingo. I'm not trying to tell you he's going to be a Pro Bowler, not trying to tell you he's going to be an All-Pro, but I do think that he has a damn good opportunity to surprise a lot of people around the NFL this season with his first time playing with a real quarterback in the NFL. Be sure to subscribe, because we are almost at 30K. Y'all are doing an excellent job. The rest of you guys that are watching my videos on the regular and aren't subscribed, shame on you, man. Hit that button. It's free. All right, so you can see here, I actually posted this a few days ago because, you know, Law's my guy, man. Law Nation is my guy. And I realized while working with my guy Law every Monday, be sure to tune in, I realized that Jonathan Mingo has become somewhat of a running joke in the Dallas Cowboys community. I feel like the main reason he's become this joke is because of the Joneses' track record with fourth-round picks, most recently with Trey Lance, and the fact that he really didn't pan out to anything for that fourth-round pick value, and probably better than any other receiver you would have drafted in the fourth round of the NFL draft this season. Yes, I'm serious. Let's get right into this, man, because some of y'all just think about the fact that Jonathan Mingo played with the Carolina Panthers and he was boo-boo. But then I have to ask you this question, man. What was the last receiver that came out of Carolina that anybody would have wanted based off the tape he put up in Carolina? Hell, what was the last player that wasn't a running back that played with Carolina, that elevated their status or lived up to their potential playing with the Carolina Panthers, essentially since the Cam Newton era? Y'all, please name that magical player for me. Please name that player that has been so successful on that team, and for some reason it's indicative of Jonathan Mingo's lack of success with the Panthers, because what I see is the Carolina Panthers was in 2023 and they used Jonathan Mingo as their second-round draft pick after drafting a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young that wasn't quite ready to play on the NFL level. What I saw was a team that had to change coaching staffs, and then a new coaching staff came in and didn't like Jonathan Mingo as much as maybe the previous coaching staff, and didn't give Mingo the chances that a previous coaching staff or regime would have given him. What I saw was a player that was just never set up for success in Carolina. I mean, when he was with the Carolina Panthers, you got to understand the type of offense that team had, where that offense ranked overall. So it wasn't just Jonathan Mingo. That was literally the dead last offense in the NFL in 2023, y'all. They were the worst offense in the entire league in yards per game. So how is it possible that the 32nd ranked off, like literally, you can't get any lower than this. The Panthers were the 32nd ranked offense. So how the hell can you expect Jonathan Mingo to have this crazy stat line or have these crazy highlights that he could point to in Carolina when they couldn't move the ball past the 50-yard line most of the time, man? So I am not holding anything against Jonathan Mingo that happened in Carolina. And you know what else? I'm not holding anything against them that happened here in Dallas, because he was playing with Pop Gun Rush, and Cooper Rush probably did Jonathan Mingo the biggest disservice that anybody has done this young man since he's been a pro, because he dirted the ball to him. or overthrew him or just completely missed him so many times where he could have actually had a tangible impact on the Cowboys the short time he was here, to have fans at least feeling excited to see what he would look like with a Dak. Because right now, based off of what has happened since he's been traded and based off of his production with the Panthers, right now Cowboys fans feels like this is a bum or something. Jonathan Mingo is not a bum. I'm telling y'all, he's not a bum. He wasn't a bum in college. Even at college, he showcased an ability to play physical, wide catch radius, 4'4", guy at 6'2", 220. So big body, huge athlete, tested off the charts as far as raw athleticism and stuff goes. Great route runner. He's actually a really, really good route runner. Doesn't have the quickest feet out there. Doesn't have Ocho Cinco feet or anything, but very precise feet, though they may be a tick slower than other people's feet. Very good route runner. I mean, he's a complete wide receiver if we're looking at it. Works out of the slot a lot, can work on the outside. We've seen that as well. So he has some flexibility as far as where you can place him on the field. And again, this is a big body, Dak-friendly type of receiver. And Cooper Rush just really didn't help us see that the kid actually does have a little bit of juice, and Cooper Rush didn't help us see what the Joneses saw to make them pull the trigger on that trade. Now, if we actually take a look at this, though, as far as Jonathan Mingo and his draft profile coming into the league, this was his overview. Big, strong slot receiver possessing the mental and physical toughness to outperform his speed limitations, which they're calling speed limitations of 4.46 on the 40. I don't know about you, but if a receiver is 6'2", 220 running a 4.46, that is a nightmare on a football field, dude. Do you know how big that is, bro? That is a damn mini beagle running down the sideline. The career production is nothing special, but it's clear he's put time and effort into his craft. He runs crisp, well-paced routes and ramps up his focus when it's time to go get the ball. A lack of separation burst and long speed could make for more contested catches, but he has the body type and willingness for that work. Mingo can get tough yards after the catch and is an above-average blocker. We've actually already seen that. We did see that in Dallas. He has the skill level and demeanor to become a starting slot receiver for teams using 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers as their base offense. His strengths were listed as imposing size with muscular build, easy to recognize he spends time on his craft, adequate footwork to slip press, finds his top speed quickly and continues to play at that speed, routes are run with attention to detail, works back aggressively to the throw, something that the Cowboys sorely need, Dak Prescott specifically really needs, man, because we've seen many times where his receivers just allow DBs to bogart them and get a pick or something or knock the ball down. A stellar ball tracking and catch focus downfield, makes use of his size and strength as a run blocker. Those are some of the most positive things you could possibly list out. And if you take a look into his weaknesses, the weaknesses almost sound like somebody just trying to pull straws at the guy. Ordinary career production. This is true. He didn't have crazy career production, which, by the way, we are going to touch on this Matthew Golden thing. Matthew Golden is nothing more than Henry Ruggs III or Darius Hayward-Bay. Y'all let 1 or 2 games completely shift the opinion of this young man. And I'm not trying to trash Matthew Golden, because if he's a Cowboy, all love to him. But I'm going to say this. Pick 12 is a little high for Matthew Golden, if I'm being completely honest, and I think it's a reach. And if you're a younger person, look up Henry Ruggs III. Look up Darius Hayward-Bay. Look up those Raiders draft picks when they were in love with speed receivers, and look how those guys turned out in the NFL, and then go and look at their college careers, and then go and look at how their size and measurables and everything matches up to Matthew Golden. It's literally almost 1 for 1. So Matthew Golden has to show me more than just a couple of good games of above average production before I'm like, oh yeah, he's the best receiver in the draft. I think that's absolute poppycock. And I don't think that he's the best receiver in the draft. I actually think he's like maybe the 4th or 5th best receiver in the draft. But that's for another video. We'll get to that close to the draft. Probably in April, we'll start doing some draft content. But Mingo's weaknesses were listed as lacks juice out of breaks to separate from tight man underneath, which that part is true. That part did show up a little bit on the Carolina Panthers tape, but that also goes into scheming and coaching and coaches understanding that he's going to struggle a little bit with tight man underneath. So let's keep him out of route situations that's going to demand that he runs routes that helps the defender essentially play to his weaknesses, right? Feet are efficient but lack suddenness, unable to find a second gear to run down deep balls, needs to get head around quicker on seam and over routes. Now, everything that they just said, maybe outside of unable to find a second gear to run down deep balls, everything they just said, bro, is fixable. Everything is fixable. The needs to get head around quicker on seam and over routes, that's extremely fixable. But I read you guys his draft profile to kind of prove the point that Jonathan Mingo is a damn good NFL prospect. In fact, they said his NFL comparison was Anquan Bolden. I'm sorry, if Mingo can be our Anquan Bolden to Larry Fitzgerald, the Cardinals' Larry Fitzgerald, back when they made that Super Bowl run, they lost to the Steelers, but they made a Super Bowl run. If we can have an Anquan Bolden to our Larry Fitzgerald, I'm all for that, bro. Anquan Bolden was a damn near 10-year plus pro in the NFL, starting receiver type guy. I am damn good with Jonathan Mingo if he turns out anything close to an Anquan Bolden. And I would argue that if Mingo turns into an Anquan Bolden, he's going to be our best wide receiver that we've had next to CeeDee Lamb since Amari Cooper was here. So I actually really like Jonathan Mingo. I want to give Jonathan Mingo a chance. I still think that we need to draft a receiver early because I think your receiver room needs to look like CeeDee Lamb. Whoever you draft in the first or second round is your wide receiver 2, and then Jonathan Mingo as your 3, playing out of the slot most of the time, and then him and CeeDee can kind of switch a little bit when you need to put CeeDee in that slot to free him up a little bit off of double coverage or whatever. But I really, really like Jonathan Mingo. I think that Jonathan Mingo is probably going to end up beating out a Tolbert or Jalen Brooks for their spot on the depth chart. And that's just my prediction. And I think the guy is going to have a good run here in Dallas. And I think there's going to be a lot of fans that's looking like, damn, we really slept on this guy. But I'm not Jonathan Mingo. Mingo and your people, man. Tackle Cowboys is on your side. Trust me, bro. I'm rooting for you, bro. And I think that you got something to you. But either way, y'all let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. See you guys on the next one. How about them Cowboys?
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.